Panic spread when the predator cubs vanished. Turns out they were playing Under the Stars Part 1, The Vanishing. Observation deck of orbital station. Nexus 9 stretched across 300 meters of reinforced transparent aluminum. Dr. Marcus Webb stood at the viewing port and watched the distant stars shimmer against the endless black. He had been stationed here for 8 months now, serving as humanities xenobiologist and cultural liaison. The job sounded impressive on paper, but most days it meant endless reports and diplomatic receptions where he smiled until his face hurt. Marcus was a tall man with dark skin and gentle eyes that seemed to absorb everything around him. Before joining the diplomatic corps, he had spent 15 years studying animal behavior on Earth. He understood predators, hierarchies, and the delicate dance of survival. That background made him valuable in a galaxy filled with species humanity was still learning to understand. Today was different. Today the Ravesh had arrived. Marcus had read every file available on the Ravesh species. They came from a world called Cathara Prime, a planet where the gravity was twice Earth standard and every creature seemed designed to kill. The Ravesh had clawed their way to the top of their food chain through raw power and cunning. They stood 8 feet tall with muscular frames covered in sleek fur that ranged from deep midnight blue to silver gray. Their eyes glowed with an inner light, and their hands ended in retractable claws that could slice through steel. But what made them truly fearsome was their culture. The Ravesh valued strength above all else. Weakness was not tolerated. Emotion was considered a flaw. Every Ravesh was expected to embody perfect control, perfect discipline, and perfect honor. They had joined the galactic community 3 years ago, and most species kept their distance. The Ravesh did not make friends. They made strategic alliances. The station's announcement system chimed softly. Marcus checked his datapad. The Ravesh delegation had docked 10 minutes ago. They would be arriving in the main reception hall soon. He smoothed down his diplomatic uniform and headed toward the lifts. The reception hall buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 20 different species had gathered to welcome the Ravesh. Marcus spotted Ambassador Chen from the human delegation, speaking quietly with a cluster of Viridian diplomats. Their crystalline bodies flickered with anxious colors. Near the refreshment tables, a group of Quellan merchants whispered behind their breathing apparatus. Everyone seemed on edge. The doors opened with a hiss. Ambassador Thane Vorath entered first. The Ravesh leader moved with lethal grace, each step deliberate and controlled. Vorath's fur was deep blue with streaks of silver at the temples. The ambassador wore ceremonial armor that seemed more decorative than functional, etched with symbols Marcus did not recognize. Behind Vorath walked 4 additional Ravesh delegates, all maintaining the same rigid posture. But it was the 2 small figures at the rear that caught Marcus's attention, the cubs. Marcus had known the ambassador was bringing offspring. The reports mentioned it briefly, but seeing them in person struck him differently. They were perhaps 4 feet tall with oversized ears that swiveled at every sound. Their fur was softer, more gray than blue, and their movements lacked the perfect control of the adults. They walked with careful steps, trying to mimic their parents' dignity, but Marcus could see the effort it required. The female cub had bright amber eyes that darted everywhere with barely contained curiosity. The male cub kept his gaze forward, but his tail twitched constantly, betraying his nervousness. Ambassador Chen stepped forward with a practiced smile. Ambassador Vorath, welcome to Orbital Station Nexus 9. We are honored by your presence. Vorath's response was formal and cold. We acknowledge your welcome. The Ravesh delegation is prepared to begin negotiations regarding trade routes through Sector 7. No pleasantries. No small talk. Just business. The reception proceeded with awkward formality. Species that normally mingled and socialized now stood in tight clusters, stealing glances at the Ravesh. Marcus watched Ambassador Vorath navigate the room like a military operation. Every word was measured. Every gesture was precise. The cubs followed closely, standing perfectly still when their parents stopped to speak with other delegates. Marcus noticed the female cub's ears droop slightly. She shifted her weight from foot to foot, a tiny gesture that probably went unnoticed by others. But Marcus had spent years observing young animals. He recognized restlessness, boredom, and the struggle to maintain composure. After an hour, Ambassador Chen announced that refreshments were available in the adjacent gardens. The reception hall connected to a beautiful atrium filled with plants from a dozen different worlds. It was meant to showcase biodiversity and create a relaxing environment. The crowd migrated toward the gardens. Marcus followed at a distance, sipping his drink and observing. The cubs walked behind their parent, still maintaining perfect posture. But when they entered the garden, something changed. The female cub's eyes widened. She stared at a flowering tree from the Andorian system, its blossoms releasing soft bioluminescent light. The male cub's attention was caught by a small fountain where water cycled through a complex pattern. His tail stopped twitching and began to sway gently instead. Ambassador Vorath was engaged in conversation with a Threxian diplomat, discussing mineral rights with the same emotional investment one might show discussing paint drying. The cub stood dutifully nearby, but Marcus saw the female cub take a tiny step toward the flowering tree. Her hand started to reach out, then quickly pulled back. She glanced at her parent, then at her sibling, then at the tree again. Marcus understood that look. It was the universal expression of a child wanting something they were not allowed to have. The reception continued for another 30 minutes. Various delegates approached the Ravesh to make introductions or discuss potential agreements. Ambassador Vorath handled each interaction with the same cold efficiency. The cubs remained silent and still, though Marcus noticed they both kept glancing at different parts of the garden when they thought no one was watching. Finally, Ambassador Chen announced a brief recess. Delegates could explore the station's facilities or return to their quarters before the formal dinner that evening. The crowd began to disperse. Marcus decided to visit the hydroponics bay. It was his usual retreat when diplomatic functions became overwhelming. The bay was located 2 levels down, a sprawling facility where the station grew fresh food and maintained environmental samples from various worlds. He had spent considerable time there, helping to cultivate a section of earth plants. It reminded him of home. He took the service lift to avoid the crowds. The hydroponics bay was quiet when he arrived. Most of the botanical staff were attending the reception or on break. Marcus walked through rows of vegetables and grain, breathing in the earthy smell. At the far end of the bay, past the main growing areas, was his personal project, a small ecological preserve featuring plants and trees from Earth. He had oak seedlings, ferns, flowering bushes, and even managed to grow a small patch of grass. It was not much, but it felt like a piece of home, millions of miles away from the planet of his birth. Marcus sat on a bench near his oak seedlings and pulled out his data pad. He had research to review before the evening dinner. Papers on Ravesh cultural practices, their history, their psychology. He wanted to understand them better, not just as a diplomat, but as someone who studied behavior. 30 minutes passed quietly. Then the station's alarm system shattered the peace. The emergency broadcast crackled to life. Attention all personnel. This is station security. 2 Ravesh juveniles are missing. Repeat, 2 Ravesh juveniles are unaccounted for. All personnel are instructed to report any sightings immediately. Security teams are conducting a full station sweep. This is not a drill. Marcus felt his stomach drop. The cubs. They were missing. He jumped to his feet and activated his communicator. This is Dr. Webb. What is the situation? The response came from Lieutenant Sarah Parker, head of Human Security Detail. The cubs were last seen in the diplomatic gardens 30 minutes ago. Ambassador Vorath was in a private meeting. When the meeting concluded, the cubs were gone. Their assigned guardian was found unconscious in an access corridor. Medical teams are with them now. Unconscious? Was there an attack? Unknown. No visible injuries. They just collapsed. Dr. Webb, the Ravesh are. They are not handling this well. Ambassador Vorath is demanding full access to all security systems. They want their own teams conducting searches. Other species are getting nervous. Marcus could imagine the scene. A missing child was every parent's nightmare, regardless of species. But the Ravesh did not show fear the way humans did. They would channel it into aggression, into action, into the appearance of strength. I am heading back to the main level now, Marcus said. Keep me updated on any developments. He ran toward the lift, his mind already working through possibilities. Where would 2 curious cubs go if they wanted to escape supervision? The station was enormous, with hundreds of corridors, rooms, and facilities. They could be anywhere. But Marcus had one advantage. He understood young predators. He understood curiosity and the desire for freedom. He understood what it felt like to be trapped by expectations. The lift doors opened onto chaos. Security teams rushed past in organized groups. Aliens of various species pressed themselves against walls as Ravesh warriors strode through corridors with deadly purpose. Their eyes scanned everything, their claws extended, their movements sharp and efficient. To them, this was a military operation. To everyone else, it looked like barely contained violence. Marcus spotted Ambassador Chen near the security station. The human diplomat looked exhausted and stressed. "Marcus, thank God, we need all hands on this. The Ravesh are about 2 minutes away from taking over the entire security operation. We need to find those cubs before this situation explodes." "What do we know?" Marcus asked. "Not much. They were in the gardens." Guardian turned away for less than a minute. "Cubs vanished." Guardian went to search and collapsed in a service corridor. Medical scans show nothing wrong with them. But they are unconscious. The Ravesh suspect foul play. Do they have any evidence of foul play? No, but try telling them that. Ambassador Vorath is convinced someone took the cubs. The Quellan delegation has already filed a complaint about Ravesh search methods. The Viridians are demanding council intervention. This is turning into a diplomatic nightmare. Marcus watched as Ambassador Vorath emerged from the security station. The Ravesh leader's usual cold composure had cracks in it. Vorath's movements were too fast, too aggressive. The ambassador's eyes had a wild quality that Marcus recognized. This was not anger. This was fear. A parent's fear. "I need to speak with Ambassador Vorath," Marcus said. Chen grabbed his arm. "Marcus, now is not the time." "They are not interested in talking. They are terrified. Everyone is treating this like a security incident. But it is a family crisis. I need to try." Before Chen could stop him, Marcus walked directly toward Ambassador Vorath. Several Ravesh warriors moved to intercept, but Vorath raised a hand to stop them. "Dr. Webb." The ambassador's voice was rough. "Unless you have information about my offspring, I have no time for human pleasantries." "I do not have information yet," Marcus said carefully. "But I have experience with young predators. I have spent years studying their behavior. If you allow me to help, I might be able to think of places others would not consider." Vorath stared at him with those glowing eyes. For a moment, Marcus thought the ambassador would dismiss him. Then Vorath spoke quietly. "You study predators on your world?" "Yes, I specialized in large cats. Lions, tigers, leopards. I studied how they raise their young, how cubs behave, how they learn and explore. And what makes you think your Earth predators have anything to do with my offspring?" "Because young hunters are young hunters regardless of the planet. They get curious. They want to explore. They test boundaries. It is not rebellion. It is instinct." Vorath was silent for a long moment. Then the ambassador nodded once. "You may assist, but understand this, Dr. Webb. If anything has happened to Zira and Kale, if anyone has harmed them, there will be consequences. I will not allow politics or diplomacy to prevent me from protecting my children." The raw emotion in those words struck Marcus hard. Beneath the warrior exterior, beneath the cold diplomatic mask, Vorath was simply a parent desperate to find missing children. "I understand," Marcus said. "Let me think about where cubs might go if they wanted to explore somewhere safe and quiet." He closed his eyes and pictured the station from a child's perspective. Where would he have gone as a young person if he wanted to escape adults? Somewhere interesting, somewhere different, somewhere no one would think to look immediately. And then it hit him. The hydroponics bay. The cubs had been fascinated by the garden. They had stared at the plants with barely hidden wonder. What if they had heard about the larger botanical facility? What if they had found their way there? Marcus opened his eyes. "I have an idea. Come with me." He did not wait for permission. He simply started walking toward the service lift. Ambassador Vorath followed, along with 2 Ravesh warriors. They descended in tense silence. The hydroponics bay was still quiet when they arrived. Marcus led them through the main growing sections toward his personal earth preserve at the far end. His heart pounded. He could be completely wrong. The cubs might be nowhere near here, but his instincts screamed that this was the right place. They rounded the corner into the earth plant section, and there, curled up together beneath his oak seedlings on a patch of soft grass, were Zira and Kale. The cubs were asleep. They had clearly been crying at some point, because their fur around their eyes was damp. Between them lay Marcus's datapad, which he had left on the bench earlier. The screen showed a paused video of lion cubs playing in the African grasslands. Ambassador Vorath froze. The two warriors moved forward, but Vorath held up a hand to stop them. For several long seconds, the ambassador just stared at the sleeping cubs. Then Vorath's shoulders shook. Just once. A tiny crack in the armor that revealed the relief underneath. Marcus spoke softly. "They found my research materials." They must have seen the videos of Earth predators and their young. They fell asleep watching cubs play. Vorath walked forward slowly, each step careful not to wake them. The ambassador knelt beside the sleeping cubs and gently touched Zira's shoulder. Her eyes fluttered open. When she saw her parent, fear and shame crossed her face. "Parent, we are sorry. We did not mean to cause trouble. We just wanted to see the plants, and then we found the moving pictures and—" Vorath pulled both cubs into an embrace that was fierce and desperate. Kale woke with a startled sound, but quickly realized what was happening. Both cubs clung to their parent. Marcus saw something he never expected to see. Ambassador Thane Vorath, feared Ravesh warrior and diplomat, was crying. The tears were silent, falling into the soft fur of the cubs' heads. "But they were there, real and unashamed. I thought I had lost you," Vorath whispered. "I thought something terrible had happened." "We are here, parent," Zira said softly. "We are safe. We just wanted to see something beautiful." Marcus quietly stepped back to give them privacy. He activated his communicator and sent a brief message to Lieutenant Parker and Ambassador Chen. "Cubs found. Safe in hydroponics bay. All is well." But even as he sent the message, he knew this was not over. Finding the cubs was only the beginning. Now came the harder question: what happened next? How would Ambassador Vorath explain this to the rest of the Ravesh delegation? How would the other species react to learning the feared predator cubs had simply run away to look at plants and watch videos? And most importantly, what did this reveal about the pressure these young beings faced every day? Marcus watched as Vorath held the cubs, and he saw something that would change everything. He saw a parent realizing that strength and perfection came at a terrible cost. He saw the moment when love became more important than honor. The real crisis was not the cubs vanishing. The real crisis was what had driven them to disappear in the first place. And solving that would require more than just finding them. It would require changing an entire culture's approach to raising their young. The work, Marcus realized, was only just beginning. The discovery. The walk back to the main diplomatic level was surreal. Ambassador Vorath carried Zira while Kale walked beside them, holding their parent's hand. The two Ravesh warriors followed at a respectful distance. Marcus led the group through service corridors to avoid the crowds and chaos still searching other parts of the station. As they walked, Marcus observed the cubs carefully. They were no longer trying to maintain perfect posture. Zira rested her head against Vorath's shoulder, her eyes half closed. Kale's tail dragged slightly, a sign of exhaustion. They looked like what they truly were, tired children who had wandered too far and fallen asleep in an unexpected place. But Marcus also noticed how Vorath held them. The ambassador's grip was gentle but secure, protective in a way that contrasted sharply with the cold diplomatic persona everyone had witnessed earlier. This was a different side of the Ravesh leader, one that probably few ever saw. They reached a private conference room that Marcus had reserved using his diplomatic access codes. It was small and simple, designed for informal meetings between delegations. More importantly, it was secure and private. "You should contact your delegation," Marcus said quietly. "Let them know the cubs are safe. I can arrange for medical scanning if you want to ensure they are unharmed." Vorath finally spoke, voice rough with emotion. "They are unharmed. I can sense their vital signs. It is a parent's ability among our people." The ambassador set Zira down gently on one of the cushioned seats. Both cubs sat close together, watching their parent with uncertain eyes. Marcus activated his communicator and sent a brief message to Lieutenant Parker. "Inform all search teams that the Ravesh cubs have been located safely. Medical attention not required. Ambassador Vorath requests privacy for the time being." Parker's response came quickly. "Understood. Be advised, the station commander wants a full report. Multiple species are demanding explanations. The Quellen are still insisting on formal complaints about search procedures." Marcus sighed. "Politics. Always politics. Tell the commander I will provide a complete report within the hour. For now, give us space." He deactivated the communicator and turned to find 3 pairs of glowing eyes watching him. Vorath stood with arms crossed, the warrior's stance returning. The cubs sat together, tails wrapped around each other. "You have questions," Vorath said. It was not really a question. "Many," Marcus admitted. "But the most important one is this: why did they run?" The cubs exchanged glances. Zira spoke first, her voice small. "We did not mean to cause such trouble. We thought we would only be gone for a little while. We just wanted to see more of the garden." "But you went further than the garden," Marcus said gently. "You found your way to the hydroponics bay. That is several levels away. You had to navigate through corridors and lifts." Kyle nodded. "We saw information about the growing place on a station directory. It said there were plants from many worlds. We wanted to see them. We have never seen so many living things that were not dangerous." That statement struck Marcus hard. On your homeworld, are most living things dangerous? "Everything on Cathara Prime wants to kill you," Zira said matter-of-factly. "The plants have thorns filled with venom. The insects hunt in swarms. The herbivores have armor and weapons. And the predators are even worse. Our people survived because we became stronger and faster than everything else. And smarter," Vorath added quietly. "We learned to work together, to plan, to build weapons and shelters. We clawed our way to dominance through intelligence and cooperation, as much as through physical strength." Marcus nodded slowly. "But that kind of world requires constant vigilance. No room for weakness, no opportunity to relax." "No," Vorath said, "there is not. Our cubs are trained from the moment they can walk. They learn to be aware, to be strong, to never show vulnerability, because on our world, vulnerability means death." "But you are not on your world anymore," Marcus said carefully. "You are on a space station where dozens of species coexist peacefully, where children do not need to worry about being killed by plants or insects." Vorath's expression hardened. "Old instincts do not disappear, simply because the environment changes. We are what our world made us. We cannot simply decide to be something else." Marcus walked to the room's display screen and activated it. He pulled up his personal files and selected several videos. "May I show you something?" Vorath nodded cautiously. The first video showed a pride of lions in Africa. Adult lions rested in the shade while cubs tumbled over each other in play. They pounced on their parents' tails, wrestled with siblings, and chased insects with clumsy enthusiasm. The Ravesh watched in silence. Sira and Kale leaned forward, completely absorbed. "These are lions," Marcus explained. "They are apex predators on Earth. One of the most successful hunters in our world's history. An adult lion can kill prey many times its size. They work in coordinated groups. They defend their territory against all threats." He switched to another video showing tiger cubs playing in tall grass while their mother watched. Tigers, solitary hunters, incredibly powerful. They can take down animals that weigh more than they do. They are ambush predators with perfect camouflage and devastating strength. Another video appeared, showing wolf pups play fighting under the supervision of adult pack members. Wolves, pack hunters with complex social structures. They coordinate attacks, communicate across distances, and survive in some of Earth's harshest environments. They are resilient and intelligent. Vorath's tail twitched, the first sign of uncertainty Marcus had seen. "Why do you show us this?" "Because I want you to see what all these apex predators have in common. Look at the cubs. Look at the pups. What do you see?" Zira spoke softly. "They are playing. Yes, they are playing. They are learning, but they are also just being young. Their parents allow this. They even encourage it. Because these Earth predators understand something crucial. Play is not weakness. It is preparation." Marcus pulled up another video, this one showing lion cubs stalking each other through grass, practicing hunting techniques while making it a game. When young predators play, they develop motor skills, learn coordination, practice strategy, and build bonds with their siblings and pack members. The playfulness you see is not despite them being predators. It is part of what makes them successful predators. He switched to a video of wolves teaching their young to hunt. The adults demonstrated techniques patiently, allowing the pups to practice and make mistakes without punishment. In the wild, young predators that are allowed to explore, to play, to make mistakes in safe environments become better hunters as adults. They learn problem solving. They develop creativity. They understand when to be aggressive and when to retreat. These are not skills you can teach through rigid training alone. Vorath stared at the screen. The ambassador's claws had retracted, and the rigid posture had softened slightly. "You are saying we are wrong to train our cubs the way we do?" I am saying that your world required certain survival strategies. But those strategies may not be necessary or helpful in a different environment. Your cubs are not weak because they want to explore and see beautiful things. They are simply being what all young, intelligent beings are: curious. Kyle spoke up, voice hesitant. Parent, when we saw the garden plants, we felt something we did not understand. They were not trying to kill us. They were just beautiful. We wanted to touch them, to smell them, to be near them. Is that wrong? Vorath turned to look at the cubs. For a long moment, the ambassador said nothing. Then, slowly, Vorath knelt in front of them, bringing their faces level. Tell me the truth. Are you unhappy? Do you resent the training and discipline I have insisted upon? The cubs exchanged another glance. Zira answered carefully. We love you, parent. We know you want us to be strong. But sometimes we feel like we cannot breathe. Like every moment is a test we might fail. Like we are never allowed to just be ourselves. Tears gathered in Kale's eyes. We watch other species' young ones laughing and exploring. We see them make mistakes and their parents just smile. We wondered what that would feel like. Vorath's hands trembled slightly as they cupped each cub's face. I have been so focused on making you strong that I never asked if I was making you happy. We want to be strong, Zira said quickly. We want to honor our people and our family. But we also want to see beautiful things and learn about the galaxy. We want to understand all these different species and their worlds. When we found Dr. Webb's videos of Earth predators, Kale continued, we saw that being strong and being happy were not opposites. Those cubs played and explored, and they still grew up to be powerful hunters. Marcus watched as something fundamental shifted in Ambassador Vorath's expression. The rigid warrior mask was completely gone now, replaced by something far more complex. A parent struggling between cultural programming and genuine love for their children. I was raised the same way I have been raising you, Vorath said quietly. My parent was strict and demanding. I was never allowed to show weakness or curiosity beyond what was necessary for survival. I became strong because I had no choice. But I also became lonely, isolated. I never questioned if there was another way because our world did not allow for questions. But we are not on Cathara Prime anymore, Zira said, echoing Marcus's earlier words. You brought us to this station to learn about other cultures. Maybe we can learn new ways of being strong. Vorath pulled both cubs into another embrace. Perhaps you are wiser than I am. Marcus felt like he was witnessing something profound and private. He started to step back toward the door to give them space, but Vorath spoke without releasing the cubs. Dr. Webb, your Earth predators. Do they love their young? Marcus smiled. Fiercely. Mother lions will fight to the death to protect their cubs. Tiger mothers raise their young alone and teach them everything they know with infinite patience. Wolf packs defend their pups as a collective unit. Predators are often portrayed as cold killers, but the reality is far more complex. They are devoted parents. And allowing their young to play does not make the cubs weak when they grow up. No, it makes them stronger. Because they learn to think creatively, to solve problems, to work with others. They learn what is worth fighting for and what is worth protecting. Those lessons cannot be taught through discipline alone. Vorath was quiet for a long time. Finally, the ambassador stood, helping both cubs to their feet. We must face the consequences of today's events. The station will have questions. My own delegation will demand explanations. I cannot simply ignore what happened. No, Marcus agreed. But you can tell the truth. You can explain that your cubs are young and curious, that they wandered off to explore, and that they are safe. There is no shame in that. For a Ravesh, there is great shame in losing track of one's offspring. It suggests weakness and failure as a parent. Then perhaps it is time to question whether that belief serves your people well. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus half expected Vorath to react with anger. Instead, the ambassador nodded slowly. Perhaps it is. But change does not come easily, especially for a culture as old as ours. There will be resistance. Other Ravesh will see this as dishonoring our traditions. Change never comes easily, Marcus said, but it often starts with one person brave enough to choose a different path. Your cubs were brave enough to seek something beyond what they knew. Maybe now it is your turn to be brave. A soft chime interrupted the moment. Marcus checked his communicator and saw a message from Ambassador Chen. Station Commander Reeves is requesting an immediate briefing. Multiple delegations are demanding to speak with Ambassador Vorath. The Quellan have filed formal complaints with the Galactic Council. "This situation is escalating rapidly." Marcus read the message aloud. Vorath's expression hardened again, the warrior mask beginning to return. "I must address this. My delegation will expect me to handle this with strength and authority. The other species will be watching to see if the Ravesh can be trusted. They will also be watching to see if the Ravesh can be honest," Marcus countered. "Strength is not always about showing no weakness. Sometimes true strength is admitting when you have made a mistake and choosing to do better." Zira tugged on Vorath's arm. "Parent, we will face this together. We caused this situation. We should help explain what happened." Vorath looked down at the cubs with an expression Marcus had never seen on a Ravesh face before. It was pride mixed with profound sadness and something else. Hope, perhaps. "Very well. We will attend this briefing together. Dr. Webb, will you accompany us? I suspect having a neutral observer who understands both sides will be valuable." Marcus nodded. "Of course." They left the conference room together. A strange group, a human xenobiologist, a Ravish warrior diplomat struggling with cultural change, and two cubs who had accidentally triggered a station-wide crisis simply by wanting to see something beautiful. As they walked through the corridors, Marcus noticed other species watching them with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. News had spread that the cubs were found safe, but everyone wanted to know what had really happened. They reached the main briefing room where Station Commander Reeves waited along with representatives from a dozen different species. The Quellan delegation stood in a tight cluster, their breathing apparatus hissing with agitation. The Viridians flickered with nervous colors. Even the normally calm Threxians seemed unsettled. Ambassador Chen met them at the door, relief evident on her face. "Thank God you are all safe. Commander Reeves wants to understand exactly what happened. The Quellan are demanding that the Ravesh face consequences for their aggressive search methods. They were searching for their missing children," Marcus said firmly. "Any parent would do the same." "With less threatening violence, perhaps," a Quellan delegate interjected. "Your warriors intimidated dozens of species. We demand an apology and assurances this will not happen again." Vorath's claws extended slightly. Marcus placed a gentle hand on the ambassador's arm. "Let me speak first." Before Vorath could respond, Marcus stepped forward to address Commander Reeves and the assembled delegates. He took a deep breath, knowing that what he said next would either diffuse the situation or make it significantly worse. "With respect to everyone here, I believe we are missing the larger story. Yes, the Ravish search was intense, but ask yourselves, what would you do if your children vanished on an unfamiliar station? How would you react if the beings you had brought to protect suddenly disappeared?" He paused, letting that sink in. The cubs did not vanish because of neglect or danger. They wandered off because they are young and curious. They wanted to see the plants in our hydroponics bay. They fell asleep watching educational videos about Earth predators. This was not a security incident. It was a family matter that escalated because we all let our fears control our reactions. The Quellan delegates started to protest, but Marcus continued. "Every species here has children or equivalent young. Every culture has expectations for how those young should behave. But perhaps this incident should remind us that before they are representatives of their species, before they are symbols of their culture, they are just children, and children need room to be curious, to explore, and yes, to make mistakes." He turned to Vorath. "Ambassador, would you like to add anything?" The room went silent. Everyone waited to see how the Ravish leader would respond. Vorath stood tall, every inch the powerful warrior everyone expected. Then slowly, the ambassador knelt and placed a hand on each cub's shoulder. "My cubs acted without permission. They caused considerable disruption and concern. For this, I apologize to the station and all species affected. The responsibility is mine as their parent. I was so focused on teaching them strength that I forgot to teach them balance." Shocked murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. A Ravesh apologizing? Admitting fault? This was unprecedented, Vorath continued, voice steady. "Our culture values strength above all else. But Dr. Webb has helped me understand that true strength includes the wisdom to adapt and change. My cubs sought beauty and knowledge. These are not weaknesses to be punished. They are qualities to be encouraged." Zira stepped forward, voice clear despite her obvious nervousness. "We apologize for causing fear. We did not understand how our actions would affect others. We will accept any consequences deemed appropriate." Kyle added, "But we also hope that all species here can understand that being young is not the same as being irresponsible. We want to learn. We want to understand. We just needed to do it in our own way. The room remained silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, a Viridian diplomat stepped forward. Their crystalline body pulsed with warm colors. "I have offspring," the Viridian said. "They also struggle with the expectations placed upon them. Perhaps we have all been so focused on preparing our young for the galaxy's challenges that we have forgotten to let them enjoy simply being young. I see no need for formal consequences. The cubs are safe. The matter is resolved." One by one, other delegates nodded in agreement. Even the Quellan, though reluctant, withdrew their formal complaint. Commander Reeves, a pragmatic human with decades of diplomatic experience, surveyed the room. "It seems we have reached a consensus. The matter is closed. However, I would like to suggest something. Dr. Webb, you mentioned educational videos about Earth predators. Perhaps you could arrange a more formal presentation? I believe many of us could benefit from understanding how different species approach raising their young." Marcus glanced at Vorath, who nodded slightly. "I would be happy to organize something," Marcus said. "In fact, I think it could be the beginning of a valuable cultural exchange program. We all have much to learn from each other." As the briefing concluded and delegates began to disperse, Marcus felt a small hand slip into his. He looked down to find Zira standing beside him. "Thank you, Dr. Webb," she said softly, "for understanding, for helping our parent understand, for showing us that being curious is not wrong." Kale joined them, tail swishing gently. "Can we really come back to see more videos? About Earth and other worlds?" "Anytime you want," Marcus promised. "In fact, I think I can arrange something even better. How would you like to meet some other species young? I know several families on this station with children your age. It might be interesting for all of you." The cubs' eyes lit up with excitement. They looked to Vorath for permission. The ambassador hesitated, old instincts warring with new understanding. Then, with visible effort, Vorath smiled. It was a small smile, uncertain and unpracticed. But it was genuine. "Yes, I think that would be good for you both. But perhaps we start slowly, 1 or 2 families at first." "Of course," Marcus agreed. As they left the briefing room together, Marcus noticed Ambassador Chen watching with an approving expression. She caught up to him as the Ravesh family moved ahead down the corridor. "That was well done, Marcus. You just prevented a diplomatic incident and possibly helped an entire species reconsider how they raise their children." "I just spoke the truth," Marcus said. "The cubs were never in danger. They were just being kids. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. Simple, maybe, but profound in its implications. Do you realize what you started here today?" Marcus watched as Zira and Kale walked beside their parent, talking animatedly about the videos they had seen. Vorath listened with an attention that seemed both new and natural at the same time. "I think they started it," Marcus said. "The cubs. By being brave enough to seek something different. I just helped translate that bravery into something their parent could understand. Well, translator or catalyst, you made a difference. The Ravesh are not known for changing their ways. If Ambassador Vorath really follows through on this, it could reshape their entire approach to child rearing. Other species might follow suit. You might have just planted the seeds for significant cultural evolution." Marcus considered that, or it might just help 2 cubs feel a little less trapped by expectations. "Either way, I will call it a win." Chen laughed. "Ever the pragmatist. Come on, we should document this properly. The report alone is going to be fascinating." As they walked, Marcus thought about the lion cubs he had studied on Earth, wrestling and playing under the African sun. He thought about wolf pups learning to hunt through games. He thought about every young predator he had ever observed. And he realized that the galaxy was not so different from Earth after all. Everywhere, in every culture and every species, the young sought to understand the world. They pushed boundaries, asked questions, and dreamed of possibilities beyond what their elders imagined. That was not a flaw to be corrected. It was the engine of progress, the heart of evolution, and the source of hope for every generation.